Shalom. So I've been wanting to do this message some time now. I apologize. I don't know why I kept saying devil incarnate. I don't know why I kept saying devil incarnate. Probably because when you think of an incarnate, and I've been thinking of the Antichrist recently, so that's probably why I said that. But it's titled L incarnate. Okay, Almighty, or I should have said Almighty incarnate. So I want to get right to this, right? Let me just test my sound real quick. It can't be very long because I shortened it a little bit, but I just want to hit the main areas. Okay. So let me test my sound real quick. Test my sound. Testing, testing. Okay. So, okay. So we're going to get right into this, right? We're going to get right into this. And I want everybody to understand something. So I want everybody to understand something, right? So but at this point, everybody's heard of the Hebrew language, the Hebrew language. Um, but there was a language that was communicated among the Egyptians, and they used symbols, right? The Egyptians used symbols to pretty much tell stories. They used symbols that say things, right? And so, I'm sorry. And so this is very important. Um, okay. And so this is very important because sometime after, sometime after the Pharaoh was taken down, sometime after the Pharaoh was taken down, right? Sometime after the Pharaoh was taken down. So all the time, just about in all my messages, I speak about when Moses was sent to help rescue the Negroes from out of the land of Egypt. And within this land of Egypt, we all know was a Pharaoh. This It's at the point now where y'all need to know these things, right? These are basic and elementary um, things of the law, basic and elementary things of the Bible that I shouldn't have to go to addresses, waste time, and constantly go to addresses. You understand what I'm saying? So, what I need you all to understand is that after Christ drowned the Pharaoh and his men, after after Christ drowned the Pharaoh and his men, Christ published and established his name in Egypt. So I want y'all to understand what I just said. He published and he established his name in Egypt. Okay? Christ published and established his name in Egypt. All right? So after he did what he did to the Egyptians, Pharaoh and the Egyptians, and they hear about the rescuing and the deliverance of the Negroes, of the children of Israel, after this took place, Egypt feared Christ. And Christ had believers of Africans, so-called Africans, in Egypt. So I hope y'all understand this. So when Christ parted the Red Sea, it's very important for many of you to understand something. When Christ parted the Red Sea, the whole world heard about it. Y'all understand that? When Christ parted the Red Sea, the entire earth heard about it. Everybody heard about it. Everything that he does on that type of scale, on that type of level, the whole world is affected by it. Egypt was one of the powers they weren't the only power on the planet, but they were one of the powers. And when the world heard that Egypt fell to this Yahuwah, to this Yah, the whole world was intrigued and fell into fear. Okay? And fell into fear. Now, after that happened, Christ dealt with believing and Yah-fearing Egyptians. So after the parting of the Red Sea, right? He then dealt with a few, about a handful of believing and Yah-fearing Egyptians. And Balaam might have been Egyptian. I'm not 100% sure. And a lot of people like to say that Balaam was evil. Balaam wasn't evil. He wasn't evil because Yah was dealing with Balaam, as many of you can remember. Now, I don't want to prolong with that because Balaam might not have been Egyptian. I know he was African. He's one of the tribes, but I'm not sure if he was Egyptian. But if Balaam was Egyptian, that would make a lot of sense. But let's keep moving because I want to talk about those hieroglyphics that I showed you on Instagram. Those are symbols, and those symbols mean, behold the nail, behold the hand. Yahuwah's name, even his name in Hebrew, okay, with the y'all sound, the UAU sound, or the WAW sound. That's not way. They whoever translates that into like Yahweh, that's a mistranslation. But in any event, okay, the name of one of the meanings and one of the understandings of his name is behold behold the nail, and behold the hand. So that's something for y'all to think about. Okay? That's something for y'all to think about. Now, I want to go to a lost scroll. I put these scrolls on the internet page, on the Instagram page. Many of you have already did some research, but I want to go to a scroll that's not in the Bible. I don't know whether it was among the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Melchizedek scroll is definitely was found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Gospel of the Egyptians, I'm not sure. And what many of you need to understand is it's not that everything is removed from the Bible. It's just that everything was not found at the same time as well. So the Gospel of the Egyptians, they named it that, but it might not have been originally. It might have originally been named well, they couldn't have used the word gospel. We know that, right? So whatever the book was originally titled, it could have been the testimony of the Egyptians, because Christ actually dealt with a few Egyptians after he destroyed Egypt. Okay? So now, this is a scroll that goes by the name of the Gospel of the Egyptians. And this is a specific Egyptian that Christ is dealing with. And Christ revealed himself to this Egyptian. And I want you all to pay very close attention. So the passage, there's more to it, but this is what I chose out of it because I thought that this was significant. So this Egyptian is conversating with the Most High, Yah. And what does he say? He says, El, meaning my all, almighty. Lol, Losl. And it tells you what that translates to, or son forever. So this Lolosl means during that time, whatever however he put that, it translated into son forever. So we need to ask ourselves a question: why not father forever? Why not mother forever? I mean, I'm just saying, right? Why not Yahuwah forever? Okay. So this Egyptian was given a revelation before or in between the times or around the same time that Moses was given the commandments. So mind you, this takes place directly after the Exodus, because the Egyptians that heard about the parting of the Red Sea, whether they were a part of the Pharaoh regime or not a part of Pharaoh's regime, at the end of the day, they heard about it. And some of them, a few of them who feared enough, were dealt with directly with Christ. And so it says, Lolosl, or translated into son forever. Now, if whether or not they got the translation dead on here into the English, probably not. But for the most part, a lot of these books have been translated over and over and over again from the root, or by people who are skillful enough to make these translations. Okay? And then it says, it says, you are what you are. You are who you are. The great name of yours is upon me, O self-begotten, perfect one. So, self-begotten is very important because in many occasions it lets us know that if you delve into the Greek and the Hebrew, when you dive into the Greek and the Hebrew in areas where you simply need to labor to interpret, you have to understand this, right? There are people out there that are against the Hebraic and the Greek translations. The 501c3, and I'm not targeting nobody tonight. I'm too tired. I'm targeting 501c3. This is what I'm trying to explain to you all. 501c3, it should be used for everything except teaching the word. Because under the 501c3 tax exempt, you are, in some cases, not every case. I've noticed that there's different types of I don't feel like getting into that tonight. But some people that are under the exempt, depending upon which avenue they took, they are allowed to use Hebrew and Greek translations. But a lot of them don't take that avenue. For whatever reason, I haven't did that much research. But in many avenues beneath the 501c3 tax exempt, you're not allowed to use Hebraic and Greek translations. I want you all to understand why this is dangerous. Because in many cases, some cases, it is a requisition to labor to interpret the original text to the best of your ability in order to gain an authentic comprehension of what's being said. Are you going to always get it 100%? No, it's not about that. But there's wisdom within and underneath the nut. Sometimes you got to crack it and open it in order to find what you need to find. Don't you understand that? I can't be too loud, and I'm not going to be too long either, because this message was never intended to be that long anyway. But let's go back and so what does it say? It says, so he says, this great name of yours is upon me. So this Egyptian is saying that the great name of yours is upon me. So Christ was dealing with this Egyptian. A lot of people say Christ only deals with Negroes. That's not true. That's not true. Christ can deal with any individual from any nation that he wants to. You understand that? It's just that simple. If Christ wanted to deal with a Caucasian, he'll deal with a Caucasian. In fact, he did deal with some Caucasians. He dealt with Romans in the New Testament. He dealt with Cyrus, who was the king of Persia. He eventually dealt with one of the Nebuchadnezzars. And one of the Nebuchadnezzars, or shall I say Nebuchadnezzar? I believe there's only one Nebuchadnezzar. No, it was a series of Nebuchadnezzars. They had Nebuchadnezzar 1, Nebuchadnezzar 2, Nebuchadnezzar 3. I'm not sure if they had Nebuchadnezzar 4. But one of the Nebuchadnezzars, I don't know whether it was 2 or 3, repented. Remember that? You can do the research for yourself. It might have been Nebuchadnezzar 3, I'm not sure, but one of them repented from, from evil and became a believer in Yahuwah. Remember? So we can't say that Christ doesn't deal with people from other nations, because that's simply not true. He dealt with Job. Job was not an Israelite. He dealt with Caleb. Caleb was not an Israelite. And Caleb was one of the most faithful and most righteous men that's ever existed in the Bible. We're not going to say that Christ doesn't deal with people from other nations, because that's false. So this Egyptian is saying here, you are a self. So this Egyptian is saying that the Son is forever, and that the Son is a self-begotten perfect one. Self-begotten means there is no beginning of days or end to your existence. Self-begotten means nobody created you. Okay? So this is very important. And then I want you to pay attention to what the Egyptian says. The Egyptian says, who is not outside me. I don't know exactly what that means. But he's going to continue to say, I see you. Oh, you who are visible to everyone. For who will be able to comprehend you in another tongue? Now that I know you. So you don't really know the Most High until you know the Son. You understand that? That's the reason why very few of you don't know the Most High, because you don't know Yahusha. You can never know the Most High because you don't know, believe, or respect in Yahusha. So you have become a fool, because the Bible says, not me. The Bible says, only a fool says in his heart, there is no Elohim. Only a fool says that. So let's keep moving though, but I want you to pay attention to what he's saying. First thing that gets me is he says, for who will be able to comprehend you in another tongue? Who will be able to comprehend you in another tongue? Now that I have known you, I have mixed myself with the immutable. I have armed myself with an armor of light. I have become light, for the mother was at the place because of the splendid beauty of grace. I don't know what he's saying right there exactly. But then he says, therefore, I have stretched out my hands while they were folded. He says, I was shaped in the circle of the riches of the light which is in my bosom, talking about his soul, which gives shape to many to the many begotten ones in the light into which no complaint reaches. And then he says, I shall declare your glory truly, for I have comprehended you. For I have comprehended you. So, everybody that Christ comes face to face with, they become different. They become glorified. And when they become glorified, just like Moses did, like Abraham did, once this happens, there's a certain transition of knowledge that Christ gives you. And you automatically, that knowledge is transferred. And you begin to understand Christ in his completeness once he comes within your presence. So this Egyptian was in the presence of the Almighty. A theophany is a manifestation of the Most High. Christ sent this man a theophany. He was in the presence of the Most High. And a lot of you think that that's something that's just not possible. You're so foolish. I'm not saying it'll ever happen to anybody in a lifetime, but to some of us, it will happen. And I pray that something like this happens to me, because I want this to happen to me. I want to be in the presence of the Almighty. I want to be in the presence of the Almighty. Now, I want to go to one of the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's titled the Melchizedek Scroll. Okay? And I want us to have a firm understanding of something. Okay? I want to go to the Melchizedek Scroll. It's another lost scroll. Okay? It's another lost scroll, the Melchizedek Scroll. Okay? Now, excuse the name Jesus Christ. Okay? Excuse the name Jesus Christ. This shows you that no matter what, they removed his name. Even in the lost scrolls, they removed his name. How can you tell that some of the lost scrolls are authentic? When you go to some of these lost scrolls and you see some sentences missing, some words missing, that is one way to tell that the scroll is authentic. because it shows you that they removed some vital information. But for real, they didn't remove the most vital information, because let's go ahead and read it, because this is something that the Jewish rabbis have always been trying to keep from everybody. They've been trying to hold the whole world back from the identity of Yahusha HaMashiach. So they haven't been able to do this, because the identity of Christ is now coming into light. The Melchizedek scroll. Oh, glorious. I'm not going to read the whole scroll. It's just a specific 2 excerpts that I thought was pretty important. And if you read the scroll, you'll find out where I'm at. I can't remember if it's up the top or the bottom, because this is literature that I've had for some years now. Oh, glorious one. It says, you know what? It says JC, and I'm going to replace it with his real name. O glorious one, Yahusha. O chief commanders of the luminaries. Now, I want to stop there for a minute. And I want you all to see something very, very important. When you go, go to Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Go to Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Now, it says, let us create man in our image and in our likeness. The us is plural and the our is plural. And that is confusing still to this day, no matter how many times I explain it. It's confusing people with a great confusion. People are saying, see, this is how we know that there's a father and a son, and they're 2 completely different personalities. Okay? No, it's not. I'm sticking to my guns on this, and I'm 100% sure. Okay? I've never been more confident, in fact, because there's some things that I haven't released yet that are so smack in your face powerful, it's going to shut down the internet. And this information you're not going to find anywhere else. You're not going to find. I'm the only I know for sure that this is a revelation that was given to me that no man is going to bring forth until I bring it forth. I'm 100% positive, because there ain't no way in hell nobody going to figure this one out. But I'm not going to say it tonight, but it's coming. I can be patient. Ain't nobody going to say it. Nobody going to say it. But listen to the wording here, because people think that only the Bible talks like this. And to show you that this scroll is authentic, this scroll is not included in the Bible, but to show you how they spoke back in these times, the contrast between singular and plural, and how they both can mean the same thing, depending on what they're speaking about. Because he says, O glorious one, Yahusha, O chief commanders. So that's a S on the end of that, commanders, meaning it can be commander, that Christ is either a commander, singular, or he's commanders, plural. It doesn't stop there. So Christ is the chief commanders of the luminary. he says, and then he's going to say, you powers. So now he's calling Christ. He's saying you, which is you, is singular, but then he says you powers. The word powers is plural. And then he's going to mention some names. Now, these names, I need to be a man and explain to you is I know what's going on here, but not completely. I know what's going on here from a spectrum, but there is some confusion with two of the names. Now, all of these names that I'm about to mention is Christ. Now, listen, I don't need us right now because, see, sometimes you don't have to attack. Be patient. That's what went on with the Trump bullshit. Stop rushing. I don't need to rush this to try to prove to y'all that I know what I'm talking about. That's not a good teacher. I don't need to try. If I'm not 100% sure, 100%, I'm telling you, I know what it's hitting for here, but I'm not all the way. I need some more foundation and I need some more proof. So as a real man and as a teacher that doesn't want to spew false information, I'm going to hold back from being a professor about what I'm about to read. But I need you to listen to something. Before we go forward, I want to start again because I want you to listen to what this Egyptian, excuse me, this is not an Egyptian talking. I apologize. But this is somebody who knows who Melchizedek is. And I'm not sure who's speaking. I'm not sure who's speaking in this literature and I'm not sure who is the one that wrote this scroll. It could have been Moses. It could have been Moses, but I'm not sure. And I'm okay with that. If y'all are okay with that, I'm okay with that. But let's use some sense really quickly and not go against our own common sense. Let's not do that at least. So let's start from the beginning, and I want you to see what the author is doing. So you can at least have a small understanding of what's going on here. We don't need to know it all right now. Just follow this ministry, and we'll get to it. You understand what I'm saying? We don't need to know everything right now. So now, what does it say here? Oh, glorious one. So now, we want to make sure that we're not confusing what this person is saying. This is not the Egyptian scroll. Now we're in the Melchizedek scroll, in the pseudepigrapha, which is and within the pseudepigrapha, you can find the Melchizedek scroll. And that's what scroll we're in now. We're in a Dead Sea scroll. This is no longer the gospel of the Egyptians. Well, we already did that. Now, this author here is saying something very important. Now, why am I reading this? Because a lot of people are having a problem with the let us make man in our image, in our likeness. And people will take it to the grave that that's talking about more than one individual. Well, this here is using the same type of ideology as Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. It's using the same type of ideology. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. Oh, glorious one. Oh, glorious one. it should say, oh, esteemed one. One, not two, not three, not four. Oh, esteemed one. Yahusha, chief commanders of the luminaries. You powers with an S on the end. And then he's going to give some names. Armazel, Oriel, Davif, Elalith, and you, man of light, immortal, Aeon, Pagera, Adamus. Adamus means man, but he is a Pagera Adamus. And you good Elohim, or you good guy of the beneficent worlds. Now, that's a lot to take in there. But I hope y'all caught it, because I don't want to keep going back and forth. The same singular to plural, singular to plural, singular to plural ideology that's being used in Genesis 1:26, chapter 1, verses 26 and 27. How 26 is plural and verse 27 reverts back to singular. And that's not the only time that happens in the Bible. It happens on numerous occasions. Singular, plural, singular, plural, singular, plural. Now, 4 names were mentioned. One name I can guarantee you. The 4th name, Elelith, Elelith. Elelith is the power within the body of Elohim. Elelith is the creator of this universe. Listen, this is something I have to prove. So, there are 4 names being mentioned here. Okay? And many of you will say, well, why aren't any of these names mentioned in the Bible? I don't know if we want to believe this, because none of these names are mentioned in the Bible. Well, Elelith is certainly mentioned in the Bible. El. Okay? Elelith is who you all would probably refer to as the Father. But it's within the body of Christ. Now, the Father, the Elelith, and the body, they're not 2 separate minds. But now, we have a open math problem that really needs to be solved. And it's not going to get solved tonight. It's not going to get solved tonight. And I don't want to throw extra confusion on this message. But there were 4 names mentioned, and they're all equal in power. Now, they're all Yahusha. And guess what? Guess what? After that, it's going to tell you, after he mentions these 4 names, it also says, and you, man of light. This is making it seem like the man of light is separate from these 4 powers. But he's not. And it's going to say here, immortal Aeon. Because how can this man, listen, this is a man, so he's referring to Christ. So Christ is the Son in all of this. But Christ is also self-begotten. So none of these names, Amorzel, Oriel, David, or El Elif, none of them created this man of life. None of them is his creator. And he's not answering to any of them. Woo, we're getting deep now. We're getting really deep now. And there's a lot of head scratching. That's okay, because I'm scratching my head a little bit too. And guess what? That's okay. That's okay. That doesn't mean that we'll never get to the bottom of this. But it's okay. There's no need to rush it. Right? So it's saying here, then it says here, after it says, you man of light, it's saying immortal. So now we know that this man of light is self-begotten, means he wasn't created, and he's immortal. Without Armazel, Origel, Oriel, David, and El Elif. Without these entities, he's self-begotten and he's immortal. So now we need to know, well, who's the boss? Is there a boss here among them? So the El Elif is the father. So that means the soul within the body is not in charge. I'm going to prove it to you. The father's not in charge. And neither is David Eve, neither is Oriel, and neither is Armazel. None of them are in charge. Who's in charge here? You man of light, immortal Aeon, Pajira Adamas. Adam just means man. Adamas, but he's a Pajira Adamas. He's not like a man like me or you. He's much greater than an ordinary Adam. He's a Pajira Adamas. If you all want to look it up, it's not easily explained by anything. Okay? It's right there on the Instagram. If there are people having a problem with it, go ahead. A lot of people say that it's a myth. Okay? But listen, I'm challenging the fact that they're saying that it's a myth. Okay? They call it a Gnostic, some type of myth. I suggest if you're unlearned about the simple things in the body, you should not get. I'm not trying to knock nobody down. I'm not trying to knock nobody down. But understand what I'm saying. Do you think that anybody can just go on the internet and look into it? I suggest you go do that just to look into it. But don't take anything for face value. Read into a little bit of this, read into a little bit of that, but don't get too involved in it, because if you don't know the basic elementaries of the Bible, then you certainly shouldn't be delving. This is some heavy shit. Okay? So now, this is talking about Melchizedek. Remember, this is Melchizedek. I hope we didn't forget this. So if you're somebody who's skilled, if you're somebody who's with a camp, who's with a church, you somebody who knows who Melchizedek is. I don't want us to forget who we're talking about here. We're talking about, this is somebody who's describing Melchizedek. So everybody never knew who Melchizedek was. It's telling you who Melchizedek is here. So who's Melchizedek again? Let's start from the beginning and then let's read straight through. I'm going to read straight through. And if you listen carefully, you're going to hear the shifting of the plural, singular, plural, singular, plural, singular. You're going to hear the shifting of that. You're going to hear them talking about one person, but then they're going to name four names. And then the person that they're talking about, they're going to name him the fifth person among the four, right? But this is not actually five people. And listen, I know right now, and I know, right, I don't want to dwell on this too much longer. And I didn't try to do this to f up nobody's brain and head and give nobody a headache or nothing like that. Okay, you have to be on a certain type of frequency to even remotely gather this. But we don't need to find everything out tonight. Let me go ahead, reread it, and let's keep moving and let's move on because I don't want to be stuck here for too long. Okay, the scroll of Melchizedek is where we're at. This is the pseudepigrapha. This is the Dead Sea Scrolls. O glorious one, Yahusha, O chief commanders of the luminaries, you powers, Armazel, Oriel, Davieth, uh, Davith, Davith, Elalith, and you, man o' light, immortal, Aeon, Pagera, Adamas, and you good God of the beneficent worlds. I want to go to the verse I have below. It says there's a word that's being said there, and I don't know what it says. See, this is how you can tell when things are authentic. Now, if you want to type in that word and go on Google and figure it out, then fine. I already did some research on it, but I don't want to get into that right now. It says Myro Shiro Fafau. I can't pronunciate that. But it's going to say Myro Shiro Fafau, whatever. Through Yahusha, or through Jesus Christ, but it says through Yahusha, the son of Elohim. This is the one whom I proclaim, inasmuch as there has visited the one who truly exists among those who exist. So that kind of brings a whole different element to the Most High. Okay? It's not a myth. It's not a myth. Okay? Because it was spoken about in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Well, is this the only place that this is spoke about? No. I'll come with a more lengthier, more detailed message. But there's some other things that I want to get into right now. We don't have to reach the end of the line with this tonight. That's the problem with people. They always want to get to the point. Be patient. Be patient with this ministry. Don't give yourself a headache. Okay? Don't give yourself a headache. All right? Now, I want to move on. But what I wanted to show you is Christ is deeper than what we think he is. And Christ is the sole controller of all the beneficent worlds. Now, there's also been some type of rumor that there are four universes. But let's not get into that tonight. Okay? I don't know if that's true or not, but let's not get into or five universes, four or five. But we're definitely not gonna get into that tonight. Okay? Whether or not it's true or not true, I don't know. But it's even been found in some lost scroll literature. but I'm not 100% sure that that's true. All right. So we don't need to go through all that. Now let's move on. Okay. So the name of the Most High in hieroglyphics is be is behold the nail and behold the hand. These ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics date all the way back to the time before the construction of the pyramids. Let me say that again. These ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, these symbols of the name of the Most High, Yahuwah, date back before the construction of the pyramids. Let's go to John chapter 20, verse 27. Let's go to John chapter 20. John chapter 20, verse 27. Christ is going to tell, matter of fact, let's go John chapter 20. Let's start at 24. John chapter 20. Let's start at verse 24. John chapter 20. Let's start at verse 24. But Thomas, one of the 12 disciples, also called Didymus, was not with them when Yahusha came. The other disciples therefore said unto him, We have seen the Master. But he said unto them, So Thomas is one of the 12 disciples. And the other disciples are saying to Thomas, the Master has risen from the death. Let me repeat this. Thomas was the only disciple out of the 12 that had not seen Christ yet risen from the dead. And with Thomas, whom they also called Didymus, this is what he said to the other 11 disciples. He said, except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe that this is the Master that was crucified on the stake. I won't believe it. Right here in the original Canaan. Behold the nail, behold the hand. Behold the nail, behold the hand. And after 8 days, again his disciples were within, and Thomas was with them this time. Then came Yahusha, the doors being shut, and stood in the midst, and said, Peace be unto you all. Then saith he to Thomas, Reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy side, and thrust it into my side, and be not faithless, but believing. And Thomas answered and said unto him, my master and my sovereignty. Yahusha saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed. So Thomas took his finger and put his finger through the holes of each of Christ's hands. And then he took his hand and Christ told him, be believing while you're doing it, because this is not an act. Christ remained his scars when he came back from the dead. He still had his scars. And what did he tell Thomas to do? He said, Thomas, reach thy finger in verse 27. He said, Thomas, reach thy finger and behold my hands. Behold my hands. Hallelujah. He has risen. And many other signs truly did Yahusha in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book, 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 which are not written in this book. Many other signs did Christ do among his disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written, that ye might believe that Yahusha is the Christ. See, that the Christ is not just saying an anointed man. The Christ means much more than you think it means. And it's going to say, believe that Yahusha is the Christ, the Son of Elohim, and that believing ye might have life through his name. It's all, the whole story is about Yahusha. He is this Pagira Adames that exists. He is the one who exists among others who exist. And we don't have to figure it all out right now. But Christ is the boss. You understand that? Christ is the boss. Christ is the boss. Now, we got a little bit more. We should be done in about a half hour. I want to go to the most controversial scene in the Bible. I want to go to the most controversial scene in the Bible. I want to go to Luke. I want to go to Luke chapter 29. I want to go to Luke chapter 29. I want to go to Luke chapter 39. I want to go to Luke. I want to go to Luke chapter 23. Luke chapter 23. And I want to go to verse 39. So I want to go to Luke chapter 23. And I want to go to verse 39. And I want to start here. And one of the malefactors which were hanged railed on him. So this is the most controversial scene in all of the scripture. Christ is being persecuted up on the stake. Christ got a nigger to his right and a nigger to his left, both dying with him. One of the niggers that's hanged up with Christ got angry with Christ, railed on him, saying, "If thou be Christ, save thyself and us." God damn it. So, see, the Christ, some people knew what that meant. And we're not going to get to that tonight. But the Christ held a lot more weight, because they never said the Christ, okay? That's the English. But I'm not here to batter you about that tonight. But I just want you to understand that title is a lot more, that title is highly underrated, okay? The title, the Christ, highly underrated. That office is so underrated that it don't even make no sense. But we're not going to get into all that tonight. So one of the niggas up there said, "Listen, man, if you be the Christ, get us the hell down here, man." But the other answered. The other nigga that was up there with him answered, rebuked the other nigga, say, "Dost not thou fear Elohim, seeing thou art in the same condemnation?" So we don't want to get into too much detail with that. That what's taking place on this stake? It's a lot more taking place. The conversation between Christ and those two men is not all here. It's not all here. And I'm going to tell you something. There are some parts of the conversation that's not why we're here tonight. Okay? That's not why we're here tonight. Let's keep going, right? So, in other words, the other guy was just taken up for Christ. And let's move on. Verse 41. Luke chapter 23, now we're in verse 41. "And we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our death." So in other words, the other boy is saying, stand accountable, nigga. Stop bitching. Stand accountable. We're all, he said, me and you, he didn't say Christ, but me and you, we're doing the just of our deeds, meaning we're getting what we deserve. Shut up. Okay? I know who he is. You don't know who he is. So he's saying, like, he's not going to rescue us because this must be done. This is our just due. Stand accountable, man. Get it over with. Right? So that's basically what he's saying for the boy. He said, and if we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds. He says, but this man hath done nothing amiss. So he's saying Christ ain't do nothing. And he said unto Yahusha, Master. So the one that rebuked the other boy, the nigga that protected Christ, after he said to what he said to the other nigga, he was probably brown nosing. But he obviously was sincere, because if he wasn't, because then he says, he turns after he spoke to the other nigga, he say, Master, he says, Yahusha, Master, remember me when thou comest into the kingdom. Ooh. So you about to die? Man, I would do anything to be in that position with Christ. Do you know that them two niggas that died with Christ, oh my God, they was on the left and the right of the creator of the universe, getting what they deserve. Woo! Now, it's going to say here, right? And Yahusha said it to him, to that brother. He said, truly, I say unto thee, today shalt thou be with me in paradise. Now, I want to stop there for a minute, because I need us to understand something pretty specific. There are two paradises. There are 4 or 5 compartments of the underworld, of Sheol. Sheol is the underworld. And there's about 4 to 5 compartments of the underworld. So you got the bottomless pit, you got Tartarus. Tartarus is where the fallen angels are being held prisoner until their destruction. You have Gehenna, which is the lake of fire, one of the lakes of fire, because there's a lake of fire in hell and there's a lake of fire at the throne. So, and then you have another, you have a department, you have an area beneath where there's fire and water combined. And the fire is not drying up the water, and the water is not drowning the fire. So there are different compartments in Sheol. I explained that to you all before. You also have a paradise in Sheol. You have a paradise beneath, and you have a paradise in heaven, which is the Garden of Eden. So we already know about the Garden of Eden. We know that that's considered paradise. But there's also another paradise. There's a paradise, the paradise when Christ said today to that nigga, when he said, you will be with me in paradise today, he's not talking, he said today. So he's not talking about the paradise in heaven. Now, I'm not saying that the guy probably never got transferred or whatever. I don't know. Nobody knows. But there are 2 paradises. There's a paradise in hell, in Sheol, and there's a paradise in heaven. Let's go to Luke chapter 16. Let's go to Luke chapter, we can do that. We can do that. Let's go to Luke chapter 16. Let's go to Luke chapter 16. We're doing a lot of Luke today. Luke chapter 16. And let's go to let's start at verse 19. Let's go to Luke chapter 16 and let's start at verse 19. There was a certain rich man, which was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day. So that was a rich man. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus. So there was a poor man, which laid at the rich man's gate. So there was a rich man, he was doing very well, and he had a poor man that laid at his gate, full of sores. So the poor man that was laying at Lazarus's gate was full of sores, open wounds. And there was a certain, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. So this poor man with the open wounds wanted some food. He only wanted the crumbs from the rich man's table. Bitten off sandwiches, bitten off venison, bitten off fruit, probably the core of the fruit. He just needed something. If you didn't have water to give him, you could have pissed in a can and went and brought that to him. He just needed something to drink and something to eat. And the dogs also came and licked his sores. So not only was this man poor, but he died really fucked up. A dog's tongue, if you want to know why that is so horrific, Christ made this happen to a few people here in the Bible as a punishment before they died. Do you know what type of germs a dog's tongue holds? A dog's tongue is a wicked tongue. And if you get an open wound licked by a dog's tongue, you're going to be sick as hell. And your suffering will be great. You understand that? So these dogs licked the man's sores. And of course, in verse 22, it says, and it came to pass that beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died. So the rich man didn't die right away. So the poor man got sick as hell, died immediately. And it just says the rich man died also. The rich man didn't die yesterday or the day after, maybe not even the next year, maybe not the next 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. The old man, that rich man probably didn't die till he might have lived to be 100. Niggas back then lived to be a long time. Lazarus, the poor man, he died right away. The rich man, he lived, it doesn't say. It doesn't say when he died. It doesn't say how old, why? Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when the rich man died, right? The point is he died and he was buried. And in hell, in Gehenna, he lift up his eyes, being in torments, and seeth Abraham afar off. So the rich man opened his eyes and he see Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest thy good things, and likewise Lazarus received evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. And beside all this, between us and you, there is a great gulf fixed, and meaning there is a great wide cavern fixed, right? And it says here, so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot. So nobody can go from my bosom over here over to the hell torment, right? Then he said, I pray thee, Father, that thou wouldest send him to my father's house. So now this rich man, notice they didn't even mention the rich man's name. Fuck him. They didn't even mention his name. the rich man's name? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And then this rich man is going to say, then he said, I pray thee, Father, that thou wouldest send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment. Please, go tell my 5 brothers that this place is real. Go tell them that it's real. Abraham said, nope. They have Moses and the prophets. Your 5 brothers, they got Moses and the prophets is out there. Let them hear him. And he said, nay, Father Abraham, but if one went unto them from the dead, they will repent. So in other words, if somebody came from them from the dead, they will surely repent. They believe. No. And he said unto them, if they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead. Neither will you niggas, somebody can come back from the dead. It won't matter. It won't matter. You niggas is that blockheaded. It doesn't matter. The only thing that's going to get you niggas right is torment. That's it. You niggas today need to suffer. That's the only thing. Some of us will repent, but many of us are going to take our false ideologies, our false religions, our disbelief all the way to hell. That's the word. Abraham says, if a nigga came back from the dead, it won't matter. Won't matter. I can die tonight, come back tomorrow. You niggas can see me die, I can return. I'm telling you niggas, listen, I was just sitting down with Christ. Hell is real. Repent. Turn back to Yahuwah. Drop religion. Drop homosexuality. Drop sacrificing your brothers and your sisters. Drop slandering. Drop being a prostitute. Drop murdering your brothers and your sisters. Drop jealousy. Y'all can see me die. Come back the next day. It won't matter. You niggas is wicked. It don't matter. Don't matter. We almost finished. I want to go to Hebrews chapter 7. Who is Christ? Christ is Melchizedek. Christ is the El incarnate. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 7. Hebrews chapter 7. Hebrews chapter 7. Hebrews chapter 7. Hebrews Hebrews chapter 7. I'm going to go to Hebrews chapter 7. I want to start off at the top. Then we're out of here. Hebrews chapter 7. For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High Elohim, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him. So, for this Melchizedek, king of Salem, which is another word for Prince of Peace, Prince of Jerusalem. Okay? There's just many names for Melchizedek, right? Prince of the Most High, priest of the Most High, Elohim, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a tenth part of all. First, being by interpretation king of righteousness, and after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace. So king of peace, prince of peace, king of righteousness, prince of righteousness, king of Jerusalem, whatever you want to call it. Okay? This man, Melchizedek, in verse 3, is going to let you know he's without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of Elohim, abideth a priest forever. Hebrews chapter 7, we're at verse 3. Without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of Elohim, abideth a priest forever. Without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of Elohim, abiding a priest forever. Without father and without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of Elohim, abideth the priest continuously, abideth a priest forever. Without father and without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of Man, abideth a priest forever. Without father, without mother, without even descendants, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of Man, abideth a priest perpetually for infinity. The problem with a lot of people, whether they be Muslim, whether they be in camps, is that you're carnal. You're fucking carnal. You're carnal. The reason why this is so hard for you to repeat, many of you all claim that you are believers in the Bible, but you hold shitty marriage. Your marriages, many of you are so pressed in showing that you have a perfect marriage that you let that preeminent, you let that be preeminent before, without a father, without a mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, being made like unto the Son of Elohim. He is a priest for eternity. This Melchizedek was Yahusha the Christ that came across Abraham after Abraham came from war. This man Melchizedek was the Pagero Adamus. He was the self-existing son of the ones who exist. This Melchizedek is the one who exists among those who exist. He is the boss. He is the one that created and is the sole controller of the universe in the flesh. In the flesh. Now consider verse 4. Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave a tenth of everything. Abraham saw this man. This man said a few words to Abraham. Abraham was a mighty, 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 mighty warrior. Abraham never, ever subjected himself to any man except one man. He spoke to Abraham, and Abraham gave him a tenth of all his shit and fell to his face. Who was this man that the gorilla Abraham? Who was this man that the toughest Negro from jail home, Abraham, gave him a tenth of everything and fell on his face to after just a couple words? When did Abraham meet him in the Old Testament? Genesis chapter 14 and 20. Let's go to Genesis 14 and 20 and we out of here. Genesis chapter 14 and 20. Genesis chapter 14 and 20. Let's start at 16. Genesis chapter 14. Let's start at verse 16. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot and his goods, and the women also, and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of the cherubims, and the kings that were with him at the valley of Shavah, which is the king's dale. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, that the king of Sodom was somebody else, was one of the other kings. That king of Sodom wasn't evil. There was another king of Sodom that was evil. But this king of Sodom wasn't evil. But Melchizedek came out of nowhere, and he wasn't with any of those other kings. And Melchizedek, the king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High Elohim. It just says he was the priest of the Most High Elohim. This was God in the flesh. This was Elohim in the flesh. And he said, and he blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abram of the Most High Elohim, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be the Most High Elohim, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand." And he gave him tithes of all. And Abraham gave him tithes. So Abraham gave this guy tithes of all. They ain't talk much about it here. This is why Paul had to go into detail. That's why I didn't start here. So Paul had to go into detail and tell you why in the hell, it was much more to it. Abraham didn't give any of the other kings tithes. He gave Melchizedek tithes. Why did Abraham follow? Why did Abraham prostrate and give a tenth of tithe? That's because he was the Most High. Christ goes back and forth from heaven, from the Almighty to a man. He did that on a consistent basis to interact with his people and to make sure that all of his prophecies came to pass. Christ is the El incarnate, the Almighty incarnate. Okay? And it's getting to a point now where many of you need to understand these things before it gets too late. Because there's a storm coming. And it's a storm coming, and many of you need to know who your creator is. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm gonna take a short hiatus, 2-3 days or so. I might post a little literature on Instagram, but for the most part, I'm gonna take me a few days off, give me some rest, and I'll post the messages so that you all can come and watch these messages. And always remember that don't be in a rush to know everything. Don't be in a rush to talk, and don't be in a rush always to get to the bottom of things. We'll get to the bottom of things. Shalom.